Good evening, everybody. It's evening on our side. Today's been such an exciting day. I'm just like trying to contain it, and I'm just super happy. Today's been like one of those days that I just like it's been really good after really good. Um thank you so much. Thank you so much everybody um for the support, for the encouragement. Um I'm so excited for this opportunity to serve to serve students and empower students, because I just think that like every student has that thing in them. It's just a question of activating it. And I've been really fortunate to have students that are super motivated. I'm so excited to be here. Tonight's live, there's going to be a lot going on. It's going to be short. I just want to warn everybody. It That's the idea. I want it to be short, um so that when we do connect over the workshops and stuff like that, we can have more in-depth conversations. But the chats, the chat's open, right? It's fully open. It's been a great day. If you're joining me live, I would really appreciate it if you could let me know that you can hear me. Um, that would be awesome. I just want to be able, I want to be able, or make sure that everybody who's tuning in live can hear me with no issues with their sounds. So welcome everybody. My name is Sally Traore Ualaka. I am the founder of ResiPrep 360, and I am committed and dedicated to the advancement and empowering student pharmacists to really effectuate their potential and to securing residency positions through a really carefully designed and well thought out process, instead of just putting your best foot forward because you have a couple thousand people putting their best foot forward. So, how do you make sure that you're rising above that group, and that you really are articulating yourself in such a great way that the talent, the passion, and the desire to serve is so super obvious? Today's live, I'm like saying I'm super excited, but I got an email that I was being recognized as preceptor of the year from my alma mater. Like UMES holds such, it occupies this huge place in my heart. I'm so excited. Like this recognition, like I don't take it for granted at all. It's been like one of those days where I've just been riding super high. And I'm literally just paying it forward, because I feel like if it wasn't for the advisors and the professors at UMES, like just recognizing the potential and choosing to invest in that potential in me, like none of what you're seeing today would actually be possible. So I just want to pay that forward so badly. And I'm just happy that the students find it helpful and that they find it beneficial. So like I'm on that wave and riding that wave super high. And then I find out that I'm actually one of the 50 most influential leaders in pharmacy per the Pharmacy Podcast Network poll that just came out today. So I'm just having a super really good day and super positive day. So if I'm like giddy unnecessarily, please forgive me. I apologize. Um, so this is January 9th, which is like wild in my mind, because I feel like I just started working with so many of you to prepare you for mid-year. And now that's done, and we're literally applying and waiting to hear back about application, which is kind of like, so a lot of anxiety right now in the air. But what I focus on when I work with you guys is channeling that energy into something productive, so that you're maximizing your time and using that time and putting that time and that nervous energy into something meaningful. And so it's prep time. While you wait to hear from programs, this is the time where you want to spend a lot of time and energy really developing your interviewing skills, working with as many people as like If anybody's willing to give you even 20 minutes of their time to guide you about how to interview effectively, I really, really want to encourage you to say yes to that, because it's one of the most important pieces of this entire process. And I want everybody to do so well. And I wanted to come and do this live really, really quickly and share with you. Well, first of all, explain why do people interview? Like, what is the purpose of it? And then for those interviewing for residency, there is some programs will put forward what's called a clinical challenge or a case or something of that sort. And it's, its purpose and how you kind of navigate that is really what I'm hoping to kind of share with you guys today and go through. So, getting right into that is understanding what an interview is or the reason why you are interviewing. And I say this a lot, but if you understand what the objectives of anything is, like if you're clear about the objective and the mission of why you're being asked to do anything, your chances of performing exceptionally well on that something, it goes up exponentially because you prepare differently. um you mentally prepare differently, as well as building your skills. Your process of how you approach that said something is going to be different, because you're going to understand that it isn't just about your talent, your skills, but there's some organization and a lot of prep that has to go into the package that you present, right? The fact that they're interested in interviewing you means a lot already. But the number one thing is for you to really pay attention and learn intimately about this program and what it is that the program really, really is trying to tell you about who they are. Um, and then after that, it's about discussing your qualifications and your skills and fitness for the position. So when I prep with you guys, this is the area where we spend quite a bit of time preparing for. It's what are your qualifications? What are your skills? How did you acquire these qualifications and skills? And how are all of these qualifications and skills going to translate into the role that you are seeking with the residency program? And really making sure that you're not just memorizing your CV, but you understand the significance of the learning experiences that you've been able to complete so far, and what did you gain from each of those experiences that's going to make you an exceptional resident, a teachable resident, a resident who's not going to be afraid to take chances, um, and be open to taking chances and being open to being pushed out of your comfort zone. So it's really, really important that you practice how you articulate that. This piece is really, really important, and we spend a lot of time on it. And lastly, if you do the discussing your qualification and skills and fitness for the position part well, you basically are effectively addressing and putting to rest any reservations that the program may have about your compatibility or qualification for the position. Because no, like, no resident, in my mind anyway, no resident is going to have like all of what a single program or every single program in the country is looking for. There are going to be components and bits and pieces that the program is potentially looking for that you do not have. That's okay. But how are you going to prepare if that conversation comes up? How are you preparing so that you are reassuring them, like, sure thing, I don't have any publications, but this is one of those things that I'm specifically going to target during residency to make sure I accomplish, because I think that its learning opportunities are going to be invaluable to the future of my professional growth and development. But your ability to acknowledge these shortcomings and not cloak them in anything and twist them, but take ownership of it, and then but articulate how eager you are to either fill those gaps or highlight other things that you do have that make up for the fact that you do not have this one experience. I think it's going to be imperative to how you separate yourself from the crowd. Most people are going to have a lot of different things, but they're not going to be prepared when they're put on the spot about something that they're lacking and what their plan is on how they're going to fill that gap. So we work together to kind of prepare you for that. So that's the interview piece. On interview day, this is where all of everybody's anxiety goes, the clinical challenge. Again, I start with making sure that you're clear about why a program may be interested in introducing this on interview day. But its purpose is really to see if you can apply fundamentals of clinical pharmacology. I'm saying like really, really basic pharmacology to solving a patient problem, right? Like, are you able to link a specific patient problem to a medication? And then if you can do that, can we escalate that one step further? Do you know how to resolve the problem? And if you can do that, are you able to effectively call out what the appropriate monitoring parameters are to really ensure that you've resolved the problem long term instead of gifting the patient with another problem now that they'll have for the rest of their lives? So it's testing your ability to think under pressure, absolutely, because not all of the programs are going to tell you that you can expect a clinical challenge. But when I work with you guys, we prepare for this piece because I'd rather you show up prepared to take on a clinical challenge than to be blindsided by it and you're so nervous that you don't even know where to start or what to do about it. The second thing that the challenge is meant to accomplish is, can you develop a thorough plan? I mean, can you really appropriately identify the patients from appropriately identify the problem from the highest acuity to the least acute problem, and then developing an appropriate pharmaceutical care plan that fits that, right? Could the plan for problem number one be 50% of the plan for number two? Your ability to critically think and problem solve that way is going to be paramount. And then your ability to create an effective writing sample. Some programs may skip the clinical challenge completely, and they'll ask you to submit a drug information response, a SOAP note, or something where you've had an opportunity to review a patient chart and then write that patient up. And so these are the components of like the clinical challenge that I think are important or extremely important as you begin to prepare and think about how you're going to make sure that you're really, really doing well on each of these interviews as you progress. A lot of programs are interviewing virtually. And I really, really wanted to plug some stuff in here about how you prepare for that. Virtual interviews used to be this unicorn thing, right? And then the obvious happened in 2020, and now we can't even imagine that there was a time where virtual anything wasn't a normal part of how we worked, how we socialized, and how we apply or interview for positions. This is a real thing, and the etiquettes of virtual interviewing are not necessarily identical to that of in-person interviewing. This is something you are going to have to be ready and prepare for. One of the first things I will tell you is to make sure that your equipment works. Your cell phone is not an appropriate device to take a virtual phone interview, a virtual interview, unless your interview is actually a telephone interview, then that's a completely different thing. But I want to focus on the virtual interview because this is the technology newest kind of technology at our disposal, but it's becoming the medium that's most largely utilized over the telephone interview process, right? So making sure that your computer is charged, your computer lighting is appropriate. These are all really, really important things that your computer isn't going to die despite being plugged in because the battery is dead. Having a device that has the appropriate sound? Do you need a webcam? Do you need headphones? Or are you just going to be asking the entire time, can you hear me? Can you hear me? All of that comes from not doing your part and making sure that you are absolutely technology ready to take on the interview. So please give that the time and energy it deserves to make sure you're prepared. Where you decide to do the interview absolutely matters. I am not a fan of backgrounds of any kind because I want the focus to be on me and what I am saying. But if you sit somewhere, there's a beautiful artwork, or there's like a flower or something behind you that could prompt someone to either look at that and try to figure out what that thing is and what that unique artwork is, rather than focusing on the words that are coming out of your mouth, I think is not what we want. I think that's a loss. I want to be able to conduct that interview where everything I am saying is landing, and I'm getting that reflective listening cues of they're nodding and they're taking notes. Then I know that I'm being heard and I'm being listened to. Your stage matters. I think lighting is so important. A noise free, quiet place. Like, I can't take interviews at home because I have a dog, and if there's an Amazon drop off in front of our door, he goes ballistic. I don't want that distraction, right? Like, there's too many. What's on the line is way too much for me to even lose my concentration for 5 minutes telling Louis, stop. So if you have to take the interview elsewhere to be absolutely certain that you'll get that quiet and free of distraction with good lighting, please do that. Being early isn't just for in person interviews, it absolutely counts for virtual interviews. My recommendation to you is that when they log in, you should be in the chair ready, sitting and waiting. I don't think that they should wait for you to log on. It's why I'm a fan of the 15-minute rule. I think 30 minutes is way too early to be logged in. But 15 minutes, I think is a beautiful window for you to log into the meeting and for you to wait for them. There's nothing wrong with that. So they should find you seated and ready to go. Dress professionally. I don't know. I have to say this, but we have to address it. Anything can happen. Like, anything can happen. Don't do what you see on TV where like you're wearing pajama pants and a jacket and tie. Anything can happen where you have to get up. So I just don't want to give you that advice and just be like, "Oh yeah, you can just make sure that from the chest up you're good." Yes, your view within a virtual interview should be this, where it's from the chest up with a little bit of space here at the top. But you want your profile to be clear. You want your face to be in frame clear and not like inside the screen or anything like that. But please dress professionally. Don't be in your boxers or anything like that. Just dress professionally. So, like, if anything happens, having to get up and deal with that emergency isn't going to be like weird and awkward. That's like my advice. Ladies, keep jewelry to a minimum. I just think that, again, back to my point of you want the focus to be on the words that are coming out of your mouth, not your fashion. Keep the jewelry to a minimum. If you're going to wear lip color, my recommendation is clear or nude, so that it's complimentary. For some people, makeup is a huge confidence booster. It's an expression of who they are. I'm for it. I celebrate it. I want you to show up in the truest version of who you are. Like, your I'm going to sound corny for like 2 seconds, but your authenticity really and truly is your superpower. Like, showing up on an interview, whether virtually or in person, in the truest form of who you are is your superpower. The right program is going to love that, appreciate that, and they are going to want you because of that boldness and that courage to really show up in your truest and in the truest version of who you are. I am for authenticity every single time, all the time. definitely better not to be liked because you showed up in the truest version of who you are. It's the easiest thing you're ever going to be, right? Have alternative methods of taking notes. What this is talking about is if they're talking to you and you're busy typing, you can hear, like, we can hear your keyboard clicking, right? It's distracting, but it also forces the person who's speaking to you to feel like they need to slow down because you're taking notes. And if you're typing, they may feel a sense of responsibility and making sure that they're not going so fast that you're missing notes. It's distracting. Um, at the beginning of the interview, announcing that you have a pen and notepad to take notes. And if that's okay, that's totally okay. I just think that pen and paper to write your notes down and look back up for eye contact, write your notes down and look back up for eye contact is it's far less distracting than clicking through your keyboard, or you're asked a question and because you don't think you broke eye contact and you're researching that question or the answer to that question as they're speaking to you. It We can always tell if there's a script in front of you. We can always tell on the receiving end, like the moment you start speaking, like I am able to tell that you're reading from a script instead of speaking genuinely and normally and how you would. We can tell. And if you don't believe me, record yourself trying to read a script and see how stagnant your eyes are. Our eyes are not just stagnant when we're talking. If they move around, we blink, we have expressive facial expressions and things like that. When you're reading, there's a stoicness to your face that just is really absent from a lot of emotion and reaction. And that's a dead giveaway that you're reading a script. Look at the newscasters that read teleprompters. Like, you can tell that they're reading. Then when they go off the teleprompter and they're just genuinely expressing how they feel. It's the same thing here. So I just really wanted to highlight that quickly with you guys. If you're in person, don't forget to smile. This rule applies also to virtual interviewing, by the way. Um, don't underestimate the power of a smile. Like first of all, it relaxes you. It relaxes you, and you can physically feel your body like letting go of all of the anxiety as you smile. When they log on and they're smiling and they're welcoming, they help you relax that way. And then you're also able to smile back. Smiling will usually get a smile in return. So just be genuine and really don't forget to smile, and don't be so focused like on I have to make sure I hit on my high points and then you're not smiling. So I always just want to put that there, and keeping it professional. It doesn't like from the moment you get out of your Uber, I'm just going to say Uber because I'm going to assume you're interviewing out of town. Okay, right? The moment you get out of your Uber, you're on stage. If you put that in your mind, then you're going to be fine because you're going to be mindful at all times. But don't get so relatable with during your interview that you forget and you get way too relatable. So just remember that you're on stage from the moment you arrive to the moment you get in that Uber and you leave. If there are other people interviewing, guys, like this is not Game of Thrones. Like we are not in a trial by combat situation here. Like it's okay to be courteous to those people, to be nice to those people. It's really okay to ask them questions, be personable. What school do you go to? How far did you have to come? It's it's going to be okay. You don't want to be so nervous that that nervousness translates into being standoffish. Really, really prepare yourself for the likelihood that there could be another person or other persons there that are also interviewing for a residency just like you are. But it's okay to be nice to them and it's okay to be courteous. Your social media is fair game. I'm literally not even going to spend like a lot of time on this. Who you are online is absolutely fair game. Whether you choose to deactivate those accounts or do whatever with them, clean them up, I don't know. But it's absolutely fair game. Once you put it out there, you've put it out there, and it's out there for everybody to consume and interpret however they want. So just just be mindful of that. Just be mindful of that. Um, and so with that, I want to transition and leave you guys with 5 questions that I genuinely believe. So when I think about all of the time that I've been working with student pharmacists and the questions that have continued to come up for residency interview, like every single year, these are not questions that are maybe, or these are not questions that are possibly. These are questions you're going to get asked. And preparing yourself and how to answer these questions, it behooves you. I strongly recommend that you practice these questions and that you practice them to a really, really great degree so that when you're asked about them, you can answer them honestly with a high degree of authenticity. Again, that's your superpower. The first question is going to be the almighty tell me about yourself. Um, to date, we haven't figured out a more creative way to ask this question yet. And everybody hates this question, but it's a question they're going to ask. So please prepare to and be ready to ask it, right? This is about creating a timeline and explaining how did you get here? And then how do you, like, what are some things that you have done that you would like them to know about you? It doesn't like all have to be pharmacy. What are you passionate about? What are your goals? If money was no object, what would be something that you would pursue? What is your passion? What is a fun fact? Like, I, on all of my interviews, I give a random fun fact about myself. I'm a diehard soccer fan. Everybody knows that. Like, but also weird things like I can't swim and stuff like that. I don't know how to ride a bike and stuff like that. And it always ends up being a conversation starter because they're like, "You don't know how to ride a bike?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, yes, I don't know how to ride a bike. It's a whole thing, right?" But it's about sharing pieces of yourself with them that gives them a really good idea of who you are. And I don't want you to be afraid to do that. So tell me about yourself is definitely one you should prepare for. You will see it over and over again. The second question is every program is going to want to hear from you in your own words why you are applying for residency. The decision to pursue residency is optional. You could graduate from pharmacy school today, become a PharmD, and look for a job, and life goes on. Life goes on beautifully, right? Contrary to popular belief, life goes on beautifully. But why are you choosing to take this other step? Like, why are you choosing to invest an extra year? Having a really clear and concise answer to that is non-negotiable. It has to be clear what's driving you to do this. What is it that has influenced your decision to go down this road? Because this is what's going to tell them that even if the going gets tough, you have a true north. There's something that is driving you that you're passionate about that's causing you to go down this really, really difficult path. Be prepared to be able to answer clearly why you are pursuing a residency. The third question I know they're going to want to know is why them? Like, why our program? How did you decide that you're going to apply to our program? Like, why us? To answer this question well, you have to place everything in the shadow of your goal. If your goal is to be a well rounded pharmacist, if your goal is to be a specialist in X, what is it that this program has that is going to either lay the groundwork to help you accomplish that goal or actually help you accomplish that goal? That has to be clear because you have to be able to paint a picture and create a connection between what your goals are and how the program helps you accomplish those goals. Non negotiable. You have to be able, and please prepare to be able to tell them why their program. And the way you begin to answer that question is by having a clear sense of what your goals are, because that's the only way you're going to be able to connect the dot between here are my goals and here are the things that you offer that make this program a fit for me. Question number 4. I've lost count, y'all, but I think I'm at number 4. Question number 4 that I think absolutely you should prepare to answer is, what is it that makes you different, or what are the qualities that you have that makes you different from the pool of residency applicant we're going to talk to today? Basically, what makes you special? Basically, why should we pick you? They can remix this question in like 7 different ways. It all comes down to the same thing. Why you over the 3 dozen candidates that they have that they're reviewing? Why you? This is going to be important. This is where modesty will absolutely hurt you. And I want to caution you against being modest. It's going to hurt you. If you cannot practice being able to talk about yourself, like you're not talking about a movie character on a show, like you're not talking about some imaginary cartoon character that you've made up in your mind. You're talking about yourself and the things that you have done and what those experiences actually gave you to bring you to where you are today. There's nothing cocky about that. There's nothing overly confident about that, because you're being very matter of factly about what you've accomplished and how those accomplishments have brought you to this moment. So what makes you unique? If you've had to make a sacrifice to get to this point, I want to encourage you to lean into that vulnerability to talk about that. If your journey's been tainted by failures and recovering from failure, I want to encourage you to use the opportunity with this question to talk about that. If you've enjoyed academic success, it's come at a price. It's come at sacrifices and discipline and hard work. I want you to be comfortable to talk about that. Like, lean into that. Academic excellence doesn't fall into anyone's lap. But if you've been successfully inducted in ROCI, or you have a really high GPA that you worked really, really hard for, it's important for you to be able to describe that. Okay, so case in point, I think there's an Amazon package here. Now he's going insane. I'm sorry. Um, that this is so embarrassing, guys. Like, this is so embarrassing because it's like it doesn't matter what I do. You guys can hear him. I'm so sorry. Um, the last questions that I want you to prepare for, it's it's really not one question, but it's a group of questions that are certain to come about. And there are the situational questions that a lot of people hate. But they to me are my favorite, because to me, like, once I figured out that I needed to just cover a few things to answer the question successfully, I was golden. But it's the situational question. Tell me about a time when. Tell me about a time when. And in tell me about a time when, there will definitely be a question about your time management skills. A time when you were up against a deadline and how did you pull it through? How do you time manage, right? How do you strategize and time manage? And when you are asked questions about how, you really have to describe that, right? Or if they say describe a time when you encountered a difficult patient, to answer that question successfully, they have to be able to understand the situation. So situational questions, usually the situation shouldn't be the bulk of your time. Like 10 seconds to explain what the situation is should suffice. The next piece you want to make sure you spend adequate time on is, what did you do? Right? Like, your actions is what they're really listening to find out. What did you do? So making sure that you're explaining in a really organized manner what your actions were is very, very important, right? And then the last thing is the outcome of that situation. What was the resolution? What put an end to it? What was that resolution? If you have those three pieces in, the bonus, which is what I really think the true question is, they're looking to see from the situational challenge you had, what did you learn from that situation? Did resolving that situation lead to a change in behavior for you and how you approached every other situation like this in the future? If so, you want to be sure that you talk about that, because it goes directly to the heart of your case of being a person who learns from their mistakes so that you don't repeat those mistakes again. So situational questions, I don't think are to be feared. It's just that once you figure out a structured way of how you approach them and how you answer them, you realize like the formula is very, very consistent. Like you repeat the same formula each time. This was the situation. This is what I did. And in the end, this is what ended up happening. But what that situation really taught me was this. What I really gained from that situation was this. What I moved away from that situation learning was this, because these are the qualities and skill set that you're telling them indirectly. I already possess that, and I'm able to kind of call upon these skills and situations if they ever happen again. I'm not going to panic or have a fit about it. I'm going to go more to a problem solving place and be solution driven about it, right? That's like the pearls I have for you today. I am very surprised the programs are already sending out invites for interviews, but this is exciting because this could mean that we could be all done with all this really, really soon. But like I said, we are 9 weeks away, and the podcast episodes are going to be your buddy and your travel buddy through this entire process for the next 9 weeks. We are 9 weeks away from match, guys, and the road to match day with hashtag RX match day is really, really something that you can expect to start having and start seeing episodes dropping really, really soon. And I'm really, really excited and hope that you guys will continue the conversation. All of you know this, my inbox is always open. So send me your questions, or if you're curious about how to answer or approach answering a particular question, send me those questions in the DM and I'm happy to answer them publicly. Um, I feel like I'm just looking in the chat to see if any questions kind of came across. How can a student, this is from Joelle. Hi, Joelle. Thank you for joining. How can a student make the interview conversation based instead of just question and answer? This is like such a skill, right? The way you turn the interview into a conversation based instead of just question and answer is by being yourself and allowing vulnerability into your interview and transparency, right? Like I tear up in interviews sometimes because if I'm asked, tell me about a difficult decisions that you had to make, I am unable to talk about that experience without getting emotional, because the decision to go back to pharmacy school was a monumental one for me, right? Like to just pay off everything and sell everything and move 2.5 hours away because I had this vision that there's this other thing that I could do really, really well. I have an emotional connection to that journey and all I sacrificed to be on the shore for 3 years and get to where I am. So every time I was asked that question, but then they wanted to know more about that, right? Other people, it's just that me telling them that I'm a Manchester United fan and that I'm a Real Madrid fan from the Spanish league. And they're Arsenal fans or Chelsea fans. And before you know it, our entire 30 minutes is spent just debating about the greatest soccer team in Europe instead of this list, this generic list that they were given. So again, your authenticity is like that superpower, and you have no idea. Like you're not interviewing with robots. And I think You guys kind of forget that a little bit. You're interviewing with people, you're interviewing with human beings, right? So, talking about sacrifices you've made to get to where you are, talking about failing and what that felt like, and how you dug really, really deep to recover from that failure, that's going to resonate with people because I don't know anybody who's never ever experienced failure a day in their lives. I don't know anyone like that, right? Everybody at one point or another has failed and knows that that is a really, really dark place. And it takes a lot of strength and courage to pull yourself out of that. But if you go into the interview overly guarded and you don't want to share much about yourself, it's going to play against you versus the person that goes in there and, like me, I laugh with my mouth open, I giggle all the time. It's keeping it professional, but like that's who I am. I laugh super loud, unfortunately, and then I'm like apologizing the whole time because I'm giggling too much. But who I am has been able to do things for me that pretending to be another person is never going to be able to accomplish. But that would be my advice to you, Joelle, is to just go in there and let them see you. I mean, let them really, really see you, and let this cookie crumble however it's going to crumble, because you're going to be okay at the end of the day. Um, I'm so I'm so excited that you guys were able to join me today. Let's continue the conversation. Instagram, TikTok. This live will be available on YouTube for anyone who's interested to rewatch it. But my goal is every single week to come here and have a discussion with you guys about something that is relevant and give you pragmatic approach to getting to March 15th and having a huge party of celebration on LinkedIn Live that day. Thank you, everybody. I am so grateful that you could come. Have a good evening and see y'all.